Definitely feels weird filming in a different corner of the room, but we're gonna roll with it.
And now for my next number, I'd like to return to the
classic.
What's up guys, Alex back again with part 2 of my full collection video. As I said before my little introduction, I'm in a different part of the room. It's because I wanted to do my soundtracks next, as they are out of the way. It's kind of a decision I made last minute. So I have to sit on the floor and I have to reach into the cupboard and pull one out at a time. They're sort of the only part of my collection where I have to flick through like they're on a record shelf because they're in the cupboard, and while it's not the biggest section, it's one that's going to be forever growing. Every time I can find a new soundtrack that I like, it's going to be very good. So there's going to be some classics in here. There's also going to be some newer sort of soundtracks. So I'm going to try and not ramble on too much about them. So let's start off with the first one. The first one, I think everybody's pretty much seen this one because I do have an unboxing of this on my channel. It's Blade Runner 2049 soundtrack from 2017. Really like this film, one of my favorites of, well, my favorite of that year. Hans Zimmer does the film score. You might see a lot of Hans Zimmer soundtracks either coming up or in the near future on my channel because he is one of my favorite film composers. But yeah, really good film. Really good film. If you're into sci-fi, that's one to check out. Usually into sci-fi, of course, so I had to get it. Star Trek Beyond. My dad got me into Star Trek, and I do like the 3 modern movies, so of course I had to pick this one up when I found it cheap on Amazon one time. My dad also made me a big fan of Star Wars. Unfortunately, the only soundtrack I own on vinyl is the one to The Last Jedi because I found it sealed for £10 at a record fair in like November, I think. So that was exciting. Picked that up. Wish I had more Star Wars soundtracks on vinyl, but because it's not my favorite Star Wars film. But I'll settle with this one for the time being. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, another classic film here. Again, this is John Williams, and I bought it just purely because it was him. I really fell in love with the soundtrack. The movie, though, is very dated, so I don't quite like the movie that much, but the score is brilliant. Another John Williams composed score here, that's E.T. Gotta have E.T. in the collection. Also Raiders of the Lost Ark on Boulder Grey vinyl. The soundtrack to Back to the Future, my favourite movie of all time, in case anybody's wondering. Love it. Actually, I love all 3 films, but the first one especially. The soundtrack to Maze Runner, the first Maze Runner movie, on the Music on Vinyl label. Comes on green vinyl. I've showed this off before. I'm not a massive fan of the Maze Runner series. I do like the first film a little bit though, enough to obviously buy the film score when it was cheap on Amazon. So picked that up. Music of the Music of Cosmos. Obviously little clips of the music used on the TV show. So picked that up because I'm kind of, when I was a kid, I used to be obsessed with all space stuff and space junk and things like that. So that kind of throws it back to that. Still am a little bit because of films and things like that. I do like space. I'm going to pull out the next 3 because they are all linked together. This is one of my favourite sections of the soundtracks because these are my Stranger Things soundtracks. The score to the 2nd season. The songs used in the 3rd season, and the score to the 4th, and the score to the 3rd season. And I can't wait for the 4th season to come out. And I am missing a few of the soundtracks. As you can see, I'm missing the score to the 1st season, and I'm also missing the music used from the first 2 seasons. Watchmen, this is on yellow vinyl. This is a reissue, but yeah, I do like the score. I also like the music they used in the film, and I like the film. Unfortunately, if I want the one with the with the songs instead of the scores. I've got to pay a lot of money, so I'm waiting for a reissue for that one. But I have this reissue on yellow vinyl. Probably my favourite superhero film of all time, The Dark Knight. Yeah, love it. And this is the reason I like Christopher Nolan's movies a lot, and also the reason I like Hans Zimmer a lot, because I have this. But yeah, very, very good film in my opinion. Love it. As well as the soundtrack to Wonder Woman. This was limited to 3,000 copies on gold vinyl. So of course I had to make sure I got that one, because I did really enjoy the Wonder Woman movie. My last DC soundtrack before we move on to the Marvel is the soundtrack to the 1989 Batman done by Prince. Of course I had to make sure I have that one. The only two Marvel soundtracks I own, Guardians of the Galaxy and then Volume 2. I don't have the ones with the scores because at the time I wasn't collecting film scores that much. Now that I am, I really wish I had the ones with the film scores. I just have the ones with the music that they used, but I don't mind. Excuse me, I don't mind because I really like all the songs that they use. So yeah, I'm very happy to have these. Next up is probably the movie that, other than Blade Runner, the movie that got me into liking the film industry a lot more, and that's Baby Driver. If it wasn't for this film, which I watched about midway through 2018, I wouldn't be as into films as I am today. But there's some great songs on this soundtrack. If you know the film, you know. Obviously the movie's a little bit hard to watch because of Kevin Spacey. But he's not in the movie too much. The soundtrack to Shrek, a childhood favourite of mine. So when this came out on vinyl and I found it at a good price, I had to grab it. I have the Shaft soundtrack, a staple for anyone who's into soundtracks and if you're into funk as well. And then I also have this one, Shaft. This is the one done by Mac Brown and the Brothers. So it's not the official soundtrack, but it's sort of a covers version of some of the songs, but still very good. Also, I have Rocky 3, and I have Rocky 4. I do want Rocky 1 and 2 on vinyl. 5, I don't know if it's on vinyl, and 6 definitely isn't on vinyl, to my knowledge, but I'm not too fussed. I have 3 and 4, so I'm happy. The Exodus soundtrack. I haven't seen this film, but I do like the score. Mainly because one of the songs on here was sampled by the rapper Nas, but because of that I bought it, and I do like the soundtrack, so very nice. Thrift store find that. So was Close Encounters, but Exodus was a thrift store find. Dollars soundtrack, Quincy Jones. Another very nice soundtrack. I also have the soundtrack to Top Gun, Taxi Driver, Martin Scorsese. Very rare soundtrack now, but one of Scorsese's best movies. 2 Quentin Tarantino films, and they are ironically my 2 favourites because I try and get them in order of my favourites. I have Django Unchained, my favourite Tarantino film. And I have Jackie Brown, my second favourite Tarantino film. So there are those 2. Together Brothers, Barry White soundtrack. Very, very good soundtrack. If you like Barry White and you haven't listened to this soundtrack, go listen to this soundtrack. You'll be impressed. Blues Brothers. This is the live soundtrack album that they did. La La Land soundtrack. This and The Greatest Showman are sort of guilty pleasure movies for me, but I don't own the Greatest Showman soundtrack on vinyl. I wish I did. I do have Dirty Dancing soundtrack, another guilty pleasure movie of mine, but I also have more Dirty Dancing as well. Because of how much I love the film, had to get both. The Omen soundtrack, great soundtrack, terrible film. That's all I can really say about that one. If you like it, that's on you. But for me, sorry, I didn't like the movie when I saw it. Same with this, Clockwork Orange. Did not like this film at all. But the songs that they picked to use in the soundtrack is pretty good. Always, this was still sealed when I bought it. It's obviously no longer sealed. But Pretty good soundtrack. Another thrift store find, The Magnificent Seven, Return of the Seven. Cover could use some TLC, but the vinyl was mint, so that's why I bought it. Another great soundtrack there. Of course, being a Stevie Wonder fan, I had to have the Woman in Red soundtrack. I do have Saturday Night Fever, another staple. I also have Staying Alive, the follow-up to Saturday Night Fever. Monty Python, the final rip-off. And Life of Brian. Family kind of raised me on Monty Python as well. Diana Ross, Lady Sings the Blues, one of the first soundtracks I ever owned. Just because I was getting into Diana Ross at the time, didn't really know what I was doing. Decent-ish soundtrack. We're coming down to the wire here. I've only got 3 more left to show and we are done. Well, actually no, that's a lie. I've got 4 more to show. I'm a big fan of Disney. I'll say it now, I'm a big fan of Disney. And I mean classic Disney, not like all the remakes that they're doing, all the crappy remakes. I'm a fan of the classic Disney originals. So, yeah, I gotta get as many of the soundtracks as possible. Unfortunately, I only have 2. But I do have Fantasia on vinyl, which is a great soundtrack. And then I also have Robin Hood. I do have a comedy album as well, which I just put in the soundtrack. Eddie Murphy Comedian, the only comedy album I own. You don't really see too many comedy albums, but I was a fan of Eddie Murphy at the time, and we're going to end it on this one. The most recent pickup that I haven't shown in another video yet, so you guys are getting this first in this video, and that is the soundtrack to one of my favourite films of last year, 1917. I had to get this, obviously because of coronavirus, a lot of people are bringing their prices down. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this yet, because I want to leave something to keep you guys in suspense for when the video comes around, when I show this off properly, but I do have this soundtrack. Right, so that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for tuning back into the channel. If you are new here, please subscribe. Let's hopefully get to 300 as soon as possible, maybe more, who knows. Make sure the bell notification is switched on so you immediately know when I upload next. And with that, that's going to do it. Again, if there's any more videos you guys do want to see, let me know down in the comments below, and I will see you guys again very soon. Peace.